Welcome to the Autism Wellbeing Plan, the podcast where you learn how to use advanced functional lab testing, healthy diet, and smart supplementation to improve your child's health, well-being, and quality of life, and by extension, your own quality of life. Please remember that this podcast is for educational purposes only, and always consult your healthcare practitioner before implementing anything discussed here. Now, here's your host and author of the book Autism Wellbeing Plan: How to Get Your Child Healthy, Christian Yordanov.
In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of nutrient supplementation for your child. Now, this is still an area that we need to educate people on. Many parents still do not understand why they need to be buying and giving their child these supplements. They don't seem to understand why it's so important that you only use high quality supplements, right? The stuff in your local supermarket should be nowhere near your child, right? Some of the ingredients of these cheap supplements, especially like in supermarkets or these generic multivitamins and so on, or from the pharmaceutical companies, some of the ingredients in these supplements are truly shocking. It's shocking that they are disseminating this garbage to the masses, for parents to give to their children, right? It's no fault of your own. It's not the parents' fault, because not everybody is a nutritionist or a healthcare practitioner or a supplement nerd like me to actually go in and research these ingredients, right? Which, this is good. This is why it's good to listen to this podcast, because my research, you can benefit from that research and not make the mistakes that many parents are making right now. I'll just give a quick example without going off on a tangent too much. I'm doing some research for a free supplement course that I am giving to all the readers of my book, right? And I looked at a supplement from Bayer, the pharmaceutical company for kids, and the ingredients inside that supplement, right, were absolutely horrifying. From artificial colorants to iron to copper, that things that just the worst forms of many of these supplements, right? The cheapest, crappiest quality, right? And these are the things that are out there. So when people go shopping, these are the things that are out there. These are the things that look like reputable brands, and people trust them, right? And I mean, don't even get me started on these prenatal vitamin formulations. They're almost as bad. I've looked at the ingredients on some of the most popular ones, and it's horrifying that this is what people are being educated that is good, right? So anyway, I feel very passionately about this topic, as you can tell. So I'm hoping to effect some positive change by educating folks like you on, first of all, why nutritional supplements are so super important for autistic children, and why the highest possible quality that you can afford is what should be making it inside your child's body. And you should stay the hell away from all these generic brands and all these things in the supermarket, right? So stay with me. I would try to keep it as positive as possible, right? So let us examine some of the reasons why autistic children need copious, I would go as far as to say copious amounts of supplements, right? Number one, autistic children, we know, are picky eaters. They tend to self-select limited diets. So their diets are sometimes, in some cases, can be 2, 3, 4 foods, and they won't even eat much of those foods. So how much nutrition can a person get from 4 foods, from bread or milk and maybe some banana or something like that? Not much, unfortunately. Then the other problem, so first of all, we know that selective eaters So I've looked at quite a lot of research on nutritional intake in autistic children, and we know that selective eaters are at an increased risk for many nutrient deficiencies, the most important ones being things like calcium, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and many other vitamins and minerals, right? So there's one really, really good reason to supplement your child's diet, especially if they're a selective eater. Now, if they have a varied diet, say 20 foods or so, or even more, that doesn't mean that they're getting all the nutrition they need, right? Even in the very rare scenario where you run your child's diet through an app that tells you how much of the RDA they're getting, even if you were to cover all the RDA bases on a daily basis, that does not mean your child is getting enough nutrition. Because, first of all, the RDAs, the recommended daily allowances, are not based in science, and they're certainly not based on um, uh, first of all, optimal health, optimal levels, and second of all, people with health challenges, right? So a lot of those RDAs are to basically to prevent acute deficiencies and diseases. So that is not what we're interested here, is it? Just to prevent, just to keep ourselves alive, and to prevent acute deficiencies like scurvy or beriberi or whatever. No, we want good health, and you want your child to be of as good health as possible. And unfortunately, with the and you have to keep in mind, how little do children eat anyway? It's just impossible nowadays to get all the nutrition that we need with just diet. Right. So we know that the studies of nutritional intake in autistic children have found many inadequacies. Now, here's another thing. The fact that many autistic children have gut dysfunction is another factor that can prevent the proper digestion, absorption, assimilation of many nutrients, right? So it's no use to have a perfect diet or whatever if your gut cannot assimilate that food. And we know that many autistic children have gut issues, right? So this is another reason why supplements are so important. Now, we also know that many, as I covered in the previous episode, many autistic children also suffer from various metabolic challenges, including things like mitochondrial dysfunction, impaired methylation, increased oxidative stress. These will deplete nutrients more so than if they weren't present. Another common one is oxidative stress, and coupled with increased toxic burden, this can also deplete vital nutrients. And another reason why nutritional supplementation is important is certain mineral deficiencies can increase the absorption of certain heavy metals. I'll cover that in a little bit. But so far we have quite a number of various reasons why every autistic child needs to have a very robust supplementation program. Let me just go back for a second to let's take the hypothetical scenario, right? That you have a perfect diet, not even your child. Let's say you have a perfect diet. So every single nutrient on a daily basis is getting into your body and getting absorbed perfectly, which we know doesn't happen. For example, zinc from food, we only absorb under optimal conditions somewhere in the region of 38% of the zinc in the food, right? Under fairly optimal conditions. Imagine if the person has digestive enzyme deficiencies, or they can't make hydrochloric acid in their stomach, or they have gut bacteria, parasites, yeast, and so on. How much of that will get absorbed, right? But let's say you have an absolutely perfect diet and you're perfectly absorbing every single one of those nutrients, right? Would you need extra nutrients and extra supplementation? I would tell you that yes, you still would. Why? Because we live in a world that has unprecedented levels of stress and toxicity on the body. First of all, the stress that we experience nowadays, that stress also depletes nutrients. It causes biochemical changes, hormonal changes that cause chemical reactions that do deplete nutrients, right? Then the toxic burden. So let's say you have your perfect diet, everything is at 100%. You add the plethora of heavy metals and chemical toxins. Now your body is using some of those minerals, vitamins, amino acids. It's using them to neutralize, move, detoxify, and excrete those toxins, right? So where are you at now? You're now, let's say, 10-20% of that energy and those nutrients are now being used to keep you alive, to neutralize all these toxins. So you're actually already at suboptimal. Do you understand? This is the most important thing people need to understand, right? Not only are our diets not perfect, far from perfect, but we also have these extra stresses that make them even less so, right? So this is why it's so important that you have a very robust and comprehensive nutritional program for your child. And here's the thing, I was just talking about, let's say you were in good health and with a perfect diet. But what if you're not in good health? What if you have 5, 6, 7, 8 health and metabolic imbalances and challenges that many autistic children do have, as has been evidenced by the research and as I have seen on the various tests that I've run for them, right? So what then? Exactly. There's probably no reason for me to actually go on here. I hope that that's enough to convince you of the importance of nutrient supplementation, right? But let's go in a little bit deeper, right? So this is a little section from my book where I was looking at some. It's actually not new research. I believe it was from the 90s, but basically several mineral deficiencies can actually increase the toxicity and heighten the toxicity of certain heavy metals, right? So, for example, iron deficiency can increase the absorption of cadmium, lead, and aluminum. Calcium deficiency can increase lead absorption. This is commonly known that a good calcium intake is super important for all kids, to prevent lead toxicity. Because if there's not enough calcium in the diet, lead can displace or enter places where normally there would be calcium. Lead can go into those places, right? Other things, so zinc deficiency can increase cadmium absorption in the gut. Deficiencies of calcium, iron, and zinc enhance the negative effects of lead on cognitive and behavioral development, right? So these heavy metals, they don't just poison us and they don't just cause us health problems, they cause issues with the development of our brains, or if they're already developed, other issues. So for example, I know aluminum, for example, has been heavily implicated in Alzheimer's disease. And yeah, basically these metals, they just cause a lot of damage. So depending on where they are in the body, they can damage cells there. So if they're in the gut, gut cells might have problems. If they're in the brain cells, and if they're in the muscles or in the mitochondria, or if they make it into the points in the mitochondria, we could have energy production issues. And these are wide ranging effects, right? And finally, just to add the last point, selenium can protect from mercury toxicity. So a low selenium level or intake can enhance the harmful effects of mercury. And what do we know? I think 2 episodes ago, I was showing you a hair test for a 5-year-old autistic boy, and his selenium level was a fifth of the ideal, about 20% of where it should ideally be, right? So That's not the only one I've seen. There's selenium is like zinc, very often very low in autistic children. And the thing is, it's hard to get in the diet, selenium. So certain places, it's very unevenly distributed on Earth. So certain places will have a ton of selenium in the soil, and other places will have very little selenium in the soil. So it's a bit of potluck. So it's actually a very important mineral to test for, to know your child's status, right? Now, another thing I did cover in the episode about hair testing that I just want to briefly remind you is food today is much less nutritious than food from 50, 100, 200, 500 years ago because of over farming and not replenishing the minerals in the soil. It's just a fact that there are less minerals in the soil, therefore less minerals are taken up in the plants, and therefore the animals that eat those plants are more mineral deficient, and we are more mineral deficient when we eat those plants, right? We just don't get the same levels of minerals. And that's the other thing. um, Having a limited diet, let's say your child doesn't eat a lot of meat, well, that's one of the best sources of zinc, if not the best. It's the best source of zinc, right? So a lot of autistic children are low on zinc, we know that. But how much meat do they eat? Do they eat meat? Do they have a preference for meat generally, or is it more of a preference for bread, milk, kind of more carbohydrate type foods, more sweets, maybe some fruits? Generally, more often than not, they will have a preference for those rather than, say, a beef patty or a chicken leg or something like that. And just to kind of say, like, processed meats, I wouldn't consider them a good source of nutrients or protein or zinc or whatever. So when I say meat, I mean like meat, like a organic grass-fed beef patty or piece of meat, like a steak or chicken, pasture chicken, this kind of stuff. I'm not talking about sausages or fish fingers or chicken nuggets, things like that. That they're much more harmful than beneficial in terms of giving nutrition. So I would certainly stay away from meat like that. Now here's a quote in chapter 10 of my book. So a paper was published in 2010 that compared micronutrient supplementation in autistic children against medications. So in one of the groups they used micronutrient supplementation, in the other group they used certain medications, right? And what's interesting is that both groups showed improvement in autistic symptoms. But here's a quote from the paper, from the authors. There were some advantages to treatment with micronutrients: lower activity level, less social withdrawal, less anger, better spontaneity with the examiner, less irritability, lower intensity self-injurious behavior, markedly fewer adverse events, and less weight gain. Now, those were the advantages of the micronutrients. Now, what were the advantages of the medication? So they were insurance coverage, fewer pills, less frequent dosing. Okay, yeah, that is great. And it is unfortunate that insurance coverage won't cover the vital nutrients that are missing from our diet and our bodies, that our bodies are made of: amino acids, vitamins, minerals. Everything is made of that, fatty acids, our neurotransmitters, our brain cells, our gut cells. Everything is made of these things, and these things are not covered by insurance, of course. But the poisonous pharmaceuticals, drugs, are covered by insurance, and you take fewer pills and less often. Which, of course, I understand the convenience there. But let's go back again. What did they say? So the micronutrient supplementation had advantages such as markedly fewer adverse events. So yeah, with drugs, there are side effects. Less weight gain. So with drugs, there can, with certain drugs, kids can gain weight. They can become lethargic. They can become irritable. So there's definitely, I mean, look, everybody knows that you're much better off using things that are natural to the body when building health rather than drugs. Drugs do have a place in society. Don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-drugs. There's definitely some really good drugs that we have, but for children, do we want to be drugging 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old children? No, of course not. We don't want to be drugging children. We want to give them. We want to remove the impediments to health that they may have, and we want to supply them the building blocks, the materials they need to build their bodies, their brains, and to operate them, right? All right, so what I'll do is I will stop this episode here. So this is more, let's think about this one as this is more why you need to supplement your child, the many very good reasons you need to supplement your child. So in one of the next episodes, I will cover the how of supplementation again with better quality, audio quality, and so on. I know I've covered some of it before, but so we've covered the why, then we'll cover the how in the future, and the what. That's also very important, is what do we supplement, and again, why do we supplement it? But we need to discuss the core 5 supplements, which are calcium, magnesium, multivitamins, probiotics, essential fatty acids, omega-3s, and digestive enzymes. So I'll do another episode on those, and we'll cover more advanced supplementation in future episodes. So I hope that, what I really hope is that if you're not already on board, I know many of you are on board, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, and that's great if you're already on board. But if you're not on board, I hope that I have at least made a dent in terms of kind of getting you closer to this line of thinking. Why are supplements so essential? By the way, I don't think supplements are essential just for autistic children or people with health problems. I don't have health problems, any health problems, but I take a ton of supplements because I've done a ton of research of why they're important, and I know what I'm doing with those supplements. I know what systems I'm supporting. I know what things I'm trying to prevent, deleterious processes in the body that I'm trying to prevent with them. And so this is a matter of education, but people that have educated themselves on this topic and understand the ramifications of supplementation or not supplementing long term, they know that long term, those of us that don't supplement will succumb to the negative consequences of aging. They will age faster. This is a fact. I guarantee you. People that don't supplement, and I'm talking about adults now, adults that don't supplement, and I'm going to start a second episode or a second podcast to talk about more adult health issues and kind of the wider span of health. But this is something that I've researched a lot, and I'm telling you for a fact, if you have health issues, you need supplements, no doubt about it. Or if your child has health issues, if you are of perfect health now and you don't supplement, you will age faster. Your cognitive abilities will decline faster. Your body will deteriorate faster. So supplements are not a scam. There's definitely a lot of scammy manufacturers, a lot of BS marketing out there, which I hope that the course I was telling you about, that you'll be able to get for free if you're a reader of the book. I hope to kind of dispel many myths and kind of misconceptions and educate you on how not to be scammed by bad marketers and kind of clever marketing and so on. But the supplements are, in this day and age, extremely important, especially for autistic children. So I hope that if you're not already on kind of this side of the fence, I hope that you're at least one step closer to coming over to the light side. Let's put it that way. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Please help us to spread this vital information by rating the podcast on iTunes and sharing it with others who may find the information useful. For further content and resources, go to christianjordanoff.com. Don't forget to pick up your copy of the book Autism Wellbeing Plan today, available on Amazon.